welcome everybody. My name is Chris Lee, and I understand I'm the Master of Ceremonies today, the Mistress of Ceremonies. It's my great pleasure today to introduce the artists. Many of you, I'm sure nearly all of you will know Glyn, but I'm officially announcing he is the official artist, Glyn Pooley.
Oh, there we are.
2 years ago, in 2011, using Barry as the focal point, Glyn commenced a series of portraits of people whom he felt had made a positive impact on their community. Glyn drew a portrait and also took a black and white photograph of each person. You can see them. You've had a good look round, I'm sure. And then each individual was invited to write a reflection of their life and to recommend another living person whom they admired and who had been an inspiration in their lives. Glyn would then meet and draw the new person and take their photographs. And so the process would repeat itself again, creating a web of interactions which through people map our community spirit. The intention for this project is to expand organically and for it to be a diverse and open process. Glyn has called the exhibition, the project Between the Lines, which I think is dead clever. Dead clever. Because Between the Lines reveals that we are all interconnected and bonded together by our community, our contribution, and our shared humanity. It's brilliant. It's a very good title. So I think this exhibition shows that we can and we should be proud of our local Welsh community. Now, there are more than 50 people, I understand, from Glyn who have taken part in the project. Some of the people are here today. I can see quite a few. 2 here in the front, Jane and Deidre. I just met Ilora McAllister. Where is Laura? There she is. I recognised you, didn't I, from the drawing, so it must have been good. The first smaller exhibition of this project took place in Cardiff last year at the
first, and then the Pierhead building.
Pierhead building.
Yeah.
So since then, the list has expanded to include people such as Molly Conway. I don't know if Molly is here today. You're good. Nice to meet you. Dilys Colbourne, whom I just met. Where is Dilys? There she is. Steve Brace. We've got Steve here.
He's organising the London Marathon.
Oh, that takes precedence. Rowan Williams. I haven't seen Rowan Williams here today. Carwyn Jones, Stan Stennett, Ilora Finley, Deidre, Bedoe and others. So using line drawings, photographs and written pieces, Glyn has created a unique record of people and community life in Wales, particularly in Barry. It's very good. So what I'd like to do now is have a short question and answer session with Glyn so he can explain the project a bit more. Then we'll take a few questions from the audience, and then we'll hear from a few of the participants. If you could speak, the participants, for no more than 5 minutes, that would be great. All right? So let's hear from the artist himself. Can I start by asking you, Glyn, what motivated you to undertake this project?
Wow. Well, first, I'd like to thank you all for coming here today and making the effort to come out on a beautiful sunny day. The warmest day of the year so far, which maybe bodes well for this project. But the reason that I got it started was that I just wanted to make a deeper connection with people I met every day in the community. Often I was seeing people just pass by and we say hello and they say, "How are you?" and they would say, "Fine." And I thought, well, let's see if we can make a deeper connection and share something else, learn a bit more about each other. Now some people would then maybe sit down and have a cup of tea together or a meal. We're going to do something a little bit different, and something a bit different from Barry and maybe some other areas, and that was to create a piece of artwork together.
Yeah.
So the people I asked had to be brave and say, well, yes, I'll take part in that, and we'll see what happens. So it was a way of learning, it was a way from each other, and a way of making a connection and finding out that we are all interconnected.
Yeah.
So what started off then as a kind of process of connection evolved into asking people who or what inspired them in life. So that kind of evolved after I'd done a few of the original portraits. And then that question opened up a whole host of possibilities.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of evolved.
So what have you learned from the individuals that you've drawn, Glyn? Is there any connection between the individuals?
Connections and themes. What I think we'll find out is that after you meet somebody for the first time, that you only get one level of them initially, but everyone has many, many layers to them. Many, many layers, and they have a kind of common theme. Although people have many different temperaments as well, and they're all doing different kinds of activities in the world, their common aim seems to be to want to be happy. To want to be happy for them, you know, for themselves and for others, to create a happier community.
So what were the challenges of embarking on this project?
As it went on, it was the amount of information that was being gathered. Because every portrait, of course, had the pencil drawing, then we had the black and white silver gelatine print, which had to be hand printed, and then the written part of the statement, or the reflection. So some people, of course, I could do maybe within one sitting. Others sometimes had very busy schedules, so it had to be planned months in advance. The whole process was about the sitter. So that was the key to it. So it was about what they wanted, where they wanted to have their picture drawn, where they wanted to be photographed. So sometimes some people come to the studio, others would say, oh, my favourite place maybe is the Nap or over Romney Park. Or
Did you have
like
any
that.
really unusual locations, like the top of Snowdon?
Top of Snowdon, yeah. Well, I had some amazing locations. Two stand out. One was I had to go up to Magdalen College in Cambridge to draw Rowan Williams. And for me, I'm not the best traveller, and it meant trying to coordinate going through London at the rush hour. So I got lost a few times, but got up there and spent time. So that was absolutely lovely. And then, of course, more or less the next day or the following day, I was with Molly in Gibbonsdown. And we were there in a lovely little house, lovely warm and cosy, you know, really, really nice.
More at home.
More at home, yeah.
Yeah. So why did you choose, Glyn, the three different art forms? You've got the drawing, the photograph and the written piece. How did that come about? Why did you choose that?
Well, after having conversations with people, I kind of discovered that, as we said, everyone is multi-layered. So I needed to find some way of portraying that, to have the different elements. Now, some people will kind of relate to the drawing more accessibly. Others will relate to the documentary photograph kind of element. And then others, the written word. Now, they all, with their processes, they all operate differently. So, for example, making the pencil drawing, I chose to do it with pencil drawings because it's relatively simple and straightforward. All you need is a piece of paper and a pencil. And we can sit down together and just have a conversation like we're having a conversation now and make the artwork. It didn't need lots of paraphernalia, and it stopped me, the artist, getting in the way too much, which I didn't want to do, you know. This was all about the sitter. So that, combined with the black and white photograph, I love that whole process, those silver gelatine prints, because they come about, as those people know about that process, they're silver halide crystals which are exposed to light. And then the mechanical process is the kind of controls the amount of light. So the organic and the mechanical was something which kind of intrigued me. I thought that was lovely. But then with the written aspect, what that did was enable me again to put all the emphasis and everything in the hands of the participant, because they could just say whatever they wanted, you know. They were then creating the artwork in a collaborative way. Because if you think of writing, that's just a kind of form of visual art. It's just we've learned how to kind of interpret it. So the three elements then came together and build a maybe much stronger triangle and a stronger picture.
Yeah, it's interesting. Who would you most like to draw, Glyn, and why?
Well, living person. If it's a living person, I think it would be, yes, the Dalai Lama. I think he would be intriguing.
It was very funny because Glyn gave me a list of people. He said, would you do me a favour, Chris, and try and contact some of these people? So I rang Rowan Williams, and well, I didn't speak to him personally, but he accepted, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
I charmed his secretary. And the next one on the list was the Dalai Lama. I thought, oh no, I can't face that today.
Maybe next week?
Maybe next week, yeah.
When I was talking to Rowan, you know, he said he's in constant contact with people like Desmond Tutu, which was really nice, and Nelson Mandela and people like that. So it's nice that this project now is known by these people like Rowan. When he's talking about this, he got what the project was about, wanted to be part of it, and can share it on that national and international platform as well, which is nice, you know. Because sometimes you can think, you know, we're just, what are we, just an individual tiny little cog in the wheel? But we do have the, you know, ability through a program, you know, a platform like this to make that big interconnection and be part of something in the whole world.
So what do you think makes a great portrait?
And a great portrait. It's a portrait that kind of, when you look at it, it's, it intrigues you at first sight, and then kind of makes you stop and makes you become still. And then when you contemplate it, it kind of enables you to become free. So it's a kind of a physical stopping, and then a mental freedom comes from it, because you have the opportunity to discover something more about yourself through contemplating it. I see that in the work of people, for example, like maybe Rembrandt. Multi-layers, or Velázquez. So many layers to them, but the way they make that portrait, when you look at it, often it's quite loosely painted. It seems loosely painted. The light can bounce off the surface of the paint in so many ways, and because it's loosely painted, you as the viewer then have the opportunity to almost step into that picture, make the connection, fill in the gaps, and then grow with it.
Yeah.
And that's what I was trying to do with the drawings. Between the lines is about the spaces between the lines, those magical places which is inside us. Yeah.
Do you see the project developing further, Glyn?
Yes, I'd love it to develop further. I'd love just to keep doing what we've been able to do, to spend time with all you fantastic, inspirational people. And for that to be able to be continued, it would be amazing.
Yeah.
It'd be lovely if we, you know, go from this platform. We've shown it in the Zenith, in the Pierhead, which was a fantastic place to show it. We've shown it in this amazing gallery now. This is an amazing space. It's an amazing building in an amazing town, because this is where it all originated, you know.
We're all very biased, aren't we?
We're really biased, you know. And sometimes, you know, so it's lovely to kind of to have it here. But then, as a nation, a small nation like Wales, which has been the focus of this, it'd be lovely to share that on a bigger platform now. So maybe in Brussels, at the European Parliament, maybe in United Nations, as a voice of a small nation.
Yeah.
You know, and things like that. Maybe as a book, which then maybe could be shown and, you know, shared in schools. So if this was taken into schools, all these the lifestyles, the lifetimes, the people that are here, if you could share that with our youngsters, they would then be able to learn from that and then share that and move on into the next generation with this amazing amount of information. Amazing.
So I think we'll take some questions if anybody has any from the audience. If you could say who you are, it would be really helpful and interesting. Has anyone any questions for Glyn?
I'm a friend of Glyn's. I'm an artist. I work downstairs with him, from him. And I've known Glyn for a while now, and I've heard him telling me about this project as it's progressed, and it's been fascinating listening to all the little stories before he meets the person, and then he'll come in and he'll show me what he's going to tell me about them afterwards. But I'm quite interested,
Well, what would children say? What kind of marks would they make? Well, I think, as you said, we'd have to just try it and present it to them. You know, what I think you might get, depending on their age, you would get a real honesty and a transparency from their marks and what they offer, and it would, you know, be a nice way for them to connect with each other as well.
It would be interesting to hear from children as well what they want for their future.
Yes. Yes.
You know, and what they hope as a community, how important community is to them.
Yes.
To understand it from a child's point
Yes.
of view.
Yeah. Find out what they value and what works for them. That'd be good. Thank you.
Right, so now I'd like to call upon some people in the audience who've taken part in the project to each talk for no more than 5 minutes, please, about their life, insights and who inspires them. So can I begin with Professor Deidre Bedoe?
Glyn, I did enjoy taking part in your project. I like the project very much. I like the way it operates on the different levels, the drawing, and what I've been crudely calling the photograph. Tell me what I should call it.
That's the silver gelatine print.
The silver gelatine print, which are very beautiful things actually, and the photographs smashing too. And the written piece. I'm afraid I didn't really do what was asked of me in the written piece. I gave you a one-liner rather than a reminiscence of, or guidance for life. But what did I say? Something like people make places. Places make people. I think that's the order in which it should come. And then people make places. We are products of our environment, but we're not innocent bystanders. We affect that environment too. I'm proud to be involved in this because it's about Barry, and I am a proud Barryan. I feel I've been lucky to be born in Barry, and luckily a lot of other people around here think the same thing. So I was born in Barry, I grew up in Barry, I went to school here, and then I went off and I got a history degree. I'd gone to a Barry Hills Grammar School, and I never discovered this thing called sexism until I went to university. That was new because I was in a mixed environment, and everybody had such low expectations of me. You know, it made me more belligerent than I would normally have been. But I did history, and all the history I ever did, right through, because I did a PhD in history, terribly conventional. Sometimes you can be trapped by success, and I had this studentship to do a PhD in history, and I couldn't have been more conventional and scholarly. My work wasn't about Barry or about women, but it was about the war finances of Edward I. And not a word of my sources was in English, and not a word was in Welsh. It was all in Latin or Anglo-Norman, and it was jolly hard to read Anglo-Norman because I did this work in the 60s, and last year, or 2011 or 12, they actually brought up the dictionary of Anglo-Norman. So it was a bit late, but I was in a way trapped in this male version of history. But two things changed me. Jane is aware of one of them. In the 1970s, I became involved in which I academically called the second wave of the women's movement. People call it women's lib or women's liberation. And while I was involved in that, I started to think, wouldn't it be nice to know about the first wave, about Cardiff's women's suffrage movement? And I didn't even know where to begin. And by a fluke, somebody deposited in the old Quaker meeting house in Charles Street in Cardiff, where we used to hold our meetings, some anonymous person deposited all the minutes, or not quite all, but many years of the minutes of Cardiff and District Women's Suffrage Society. So that I actually chose to work on women convicts as my first piece of women's history, because it was so hard to find out about women. I was compelled to turn to crime because they at least took the woman's name down, her occupation and where she lived. But later I came on to the women's suffrage movement. And I feel that my work is far more relevant to me, our lives, and I don't write books that the sort of people would read the head of the first. I think it's very important that I address my work to the women to whom it belongs. So that was, women's movement was a very strong influence on my life. But it was also the women who brought me up, my grandmothers, my mother, my mother's sister, my father's sisters. I was thinking my Auntie Kate's my mother's sister, my Auntie Evelyn, the one at the fish and chip shop at the top of Open Road, Bedoe, those two together could have ruled the world. They were such strong women, and they just held that there was nothing you couldn't do really, which is very different from the outlook of people in university. But I fear I'm going on too long. I see look on their faces. But I think it's interesting because you're talking about what inspired me. I've always thinking that I am repaying a debt, rather than and it's nice. Your outlook is in a way more positive. I write these history books to give them something back. Do you know what I mean? All of those working class women who've done so much, and in Barry we have particularly strong women. So many men went off to sea; they learned how to cope. So I won't rattle on, but thank you, Glyn, for letting me be part of this project. I've so enjoyed it. Thank
And now I'd like to call upon Jane Hutt, please.
Right, well, I could have gone on listening to you much so you don't want to hear very much from me. Oh, Ilora's arrived. Hello,
Yes.
Probably sit down in front, Ilora. Ilora Finley's just arrived. It's absolutely incredible what you've achieved. I want to talk a bit more about the exhibition rather than about me, because I think many of us have known Glyn for many, many years, but Glyn, you really have made a huge contribution as an artist and a thinker and a person of Barry, a man of Barry. And of course, so many of us here are passionate about Barry, even those of us who've moved to Barry. Didn't have the fortune of being brought up in Barry, but many people come back to Barry, and of course we've got that reflected here in this exhibition as well. But the fact that you enabled us to say something about ourselves and what inspired us, and then to say, well, could we say about someone else? Now there's a lot of people in this exhibition I know, and there's a lot of very strong women. And it's great, and it's just interesting. I'm afraid I'm sticking to the women's theme for a moment, but I love the way that people. I don't know if it was you or them who actually decided what to put at the top. Entertainer for Stan.
I asked everyone, and they suggested it. Yeah.
I'm a bit nervous about having a politician there, but there we go. I am, I suppose. But I mean, things like the fact that Dilys Colbourne has already been mentioned, MBE, mother, great-grandmother, great-grandmother, wife, and secretary of Barry Citizens Action Group. And I just want to mention Dilys because if it hadn't been for Dilys and many of her family and friends from the Barry Citizens Action Group, we might be looking at a supermarket out there.
Yeah.
But actually, the big campaign when I came to Barry to get involved was that there was going to be a supermarket there. Thank you, Dilys. Let's give Dilys a cheer. When we came in, and Dilys was saying, isn't it great how everyone's enjoying themselves in the park? And you also did your regular monitor to see how things are going with the playground and was everything okay and keeping an eye on it. So, I mean, this is about Barry citizenship, and I think this whole exhibition, and I do want to say something about Barry citizenship because I think we've got a very lively democracy here, local democracy. So we agree and disagree, we engage, we campaign, we protest, we feel put down, and then we feel really proud. And actually, that's reflected in an awful lot of things that people have said. Just a bit the bits they've said about Barry, but it's gone much beyond Barry. And that's the important thing. I mean, when you said, who do you want to mention? Well, yes, I did mention Rodri and Karl. I mentioned Rowan Williams. He was then, it's out of date, because this was done when Rowan Williams was the Archbishop of Canterbury. But there he is there, back, and you went, and what a wonderful thing that you went to Cambridge one day and given down to Molly the next, and I know that he would have liked to have met Molly too. That's the point. I mean, the people in this room would like to know each other and meet each other, because they've all got a reason for wanting to be part of your exhibition, and that's why I wanted to be. Well, I was really pleased to be part of your exhibition. So, I mean, I'm not going to say anything more except to just quote from Glyn, because he says this. Have you seen the big chart? Glyn's at the middle. We're all connected. So that's it. We're a big family, aren't we? And you know, if I have got this unfortunate title of politician, I think this is a really good message for all politicians from Glyn. Try to be honest, kind, and compassionate in all that you do. Keep true to yourself, help others, and keep your mind clear and bright, free from limiting thoughts. Well, what a good message for all of us here today, especially for me. Thank you, Glyn.
Thank you, Jane. Now, Sharon Lovell. Where's Sharon? Is she at the back there? All right, Sharon.
Thank you. When I asked Glyn what I should talk about today, he said, say what motivates and inspires you to work for a children's rights charity. So this got me thinking of how the past influences the present, which is a bit what Deidre was saying, about how our communities, our upbringing, our place when we're children in terms of the social and economic position does really influence you as children and how you develop. So in order to answer what motivates me and who has inspired me along the way, I needed to just reflect on my childhood. I was born in the 1970s to a working class family. I was brought up in Cardiff, and my mother had had 3 children by the time she was 22. She soon became a single parent, and I'm sure it was challenging for her to bring up 3 children all on her own. As a woman, there was no expectations on me to have any kind of career. If anything, I felt it was quite the opposite. No one in my family had ever gone to college or university. I had little interest in many subjects at school, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I do remember being fascinated by people and really seeing around me the things that people do and how they interact with each other. And I do remember being very aware of just being mindful that there was lots of social injustices going on. I wasn't very good at fitting in at school. I would often get into arguments with teachers for not being able to look how I wanted to look. I wasn't very good at conforming. I think part of that was the idol that I had in the 80s was Boy George. And so I'd often go to school with my hair in these ribbons and wild eye makeup. I mean, I've toned it down a bit since, but maybe the teachers had a point really, I'm not sure. So when I was 14, I started to attend a local youth club, which really did turn my life around. One night, a friend of mine said, do you want to come away for a weekend with lots of other young people? There's this organisation called Youth Link Wales who paid for the whole thing, and we're just going to have a wicked time. Now, when you're 14, you haven't got much money, and you're given the opportunity to be able to get out of your environment and meet lots of other young people in Wales. I just jumped at the chance. I mean, 30 years later, and he's still one very best friend of mine, and that's Karl, who's here today and part of this exhibition. I said to him, what will we have to do, Gar? And he said, oh, we'll just talk about issues that are being faced by young people, like drugs and alcohol, maybe AIDS. It doesn't really matter. I know it's boring, but we'll just have a good time. That weekend was actually in St Athens Boys Village, and yeah, I have fond memories of that place. It was a good chance to travel outside of Cardiff and go away for the home for the weekend, and it was free, and just meet lots of other young people from across Wales. Over the years, I've become an active member for this organisation, and for the first time in my life, I felt a sense of belonging. I became passionate about young people having a voice. By the age of 20, I was a bit of an ambassador for young people in Wales. I was given the opportunity to travel all over Wales. I went to Canada as well, I went to Sweden, and I really just started to see a much bigger picture of the world out there. The 1980s were groundbreaking in terms of allowing young people to run its own organisation. It's quite common these days for young people, and I'm really pleased that is very common, for young people to be part of lots of different participatory projects. But back in the 1980s, it was very unique for young people to run its own organisation. The head of the organisation was a fantastic role model for young people and for me as a young woman. Her name is Veronica Wilson, and she's here today. So I just wanted to say thank you so much, Ron. I know I was a really hard 14-year-old. Many challenges thrown at you, I'm sure. But over the years, Ronnie and I have developed a really sound friendship, and my life wouldn't be the same if she wasn't in it. At the age of 22, I won an award for outstanding contribution to voluntary youth work in Wales. This award, along with my experiences, gave me the confidence to think that maybe I could go to college, maybe I could go to university and study in the caring profession. There was a lot of people around me saying, why do you want to do that for? A lot of my friends were getting married, having children. They were saying to me, you tried to be an hairdresser when you were 16 and you failed miserably. And that is true, I was terrible. It's hard work to be an hairdresser. And I really didn't know if I was genuinely bright enough. And I remember saying to Ronnie, Ron, do you think I could actually do something? Like go to college? And I remember looking at me, and she didn't hesitate and said without a shadow of a doubt. I went on to study youth and community work in Wrexham, then graduated from Birmingham University with a degree in philosophy, and went on to Cardiff University to undertake an MA in Women's Studies. When I left education, my first job was to work in a homeless hostel for young people. Many of the young people I worked with had been in the care system, and a few years later found themselves homeless, facing poverty and discrimination. It was a residential home, and I would often be up late, early hours of the morning, listening to the stories and lives of young people. Many had been abused as children, and had felt no one had really listened to them or believed in them. Hearing these stories had a profound effect on me, and I decided to dedicate my life to helping children and young people. I now help run a charity called NIAS. To give you an insight into what we do, I'd like to just a very short story from a young woman who wrote this, and these are her words. I'll call her Sarah. I went into care when I was 4 years old. I tried to forget most of it, but 14 years on, and the day my siblings and I were removed from our parents is still very much in my mind. Over the years, we were all separated. All my siblings were adopted, and I was never given the chance to say goodbye. I can't imagine that, because I'm so close to my sisters, and the thought of us not ever being able to say goodbye to each other really moves me. In total, I had 20 foster placements, 20 different social workers, and went to 11 different schools. There have been times in my life when I felt no one listened to me. I found out about NIAS, an independent advocacy service. I contacted them to ask if they could help me to see my siblings. An advocate came to see me. She never made promises to me. She just said she was somebody on my side. It wasn't about getting my own way. It was about making sure I was included in the decisions people were making about my life. My advocates helped me to gain information about my brother and sisters, and now I write letters to them. I'm hoping soon I'll get to see them. Through NIAS, I've been given the chance to become a peer advocate, to train and gain a qualification to help others like me. I see my childhood as a time I would prefer not to remember, but something positive has come from it. I can use my experience to help others. I think that's interesting because as I was a young person empowered in a youth organisation, a peer-led youth organisation, and now I'm responsible for running a peer education programme where young people who've been in care are able to help other young people. And I think that's interesting because my experience obviously gone on to help many other young people, hopefully. It It can be really hard being an advocate to vulnerable people, ensuring their rights are upheld. It can be challenging confronting decision makers. It can feel lonely and isolating when you stand up against systems. And yes, I believe this is essential if we are going to create communities where people feel equal, valued and listened to, and where every child and every young person can feel they can fulfil their own potential, no matter what position they find themselves in as children. Experience has taught me that real positive change happens when we work together, when we embrace each other's differences and celebrate diversity and understanding. My early years influenced me to want to help others, and by helping others, I think we really help ourselves. To conclude this talk, I wanted to say a little bit of what it was like to be drawn by Glyn. I mean, I know Glyn quite well. It was a really strange but fascinating experience. I was really wishing for this really glamorous woman,
Embarrassing now, Glyn.
really pretty, but I didn't really get what I wanted. I think what Glyn does is really see the person, and what is revealed then is the truth. He has the ability to really see someone, and this can make you feel quite vulnerable, even exposed. What is revealed is so much more interesting than a pretty picture, and what you see is the person's inner beauty, their strengths, struggles and determination. Diolch yn fawr iawn. Thank you for listening to my story.
Thank you, Sharon. That was really interesting. Ilora, Finley, would you like to say a few words, please?
Thank you very much. Like others, I felt hugely privileged when I was asked to sit for Glyn, and actually couldn't understand quite why. And the thing that I would have to say is the title of this, Between the Lines, I thought was fascinating, because I immediately thought about railway lines, perhaps because I live a lot of my life going on the railway between Cardiff and London now, and that commute is quite long, but also because our lives are a bit like parallel tracks. We go along on our own track, but other people's tracks sometimes go parallel, they cross ours, and then they diverge again. But also that although the tracks look clean when you look at them, the tops are glistening, actually all the rubbish is in between. That's all the rubbish of our lives, all the reality of our lives, all the things that have gone wrong, the disappointments, the things that we've cried over, the things that we've regretted. They're like all those crisp packets and tin cans in between the bits of railway line that look so smooth to the outside world. And I found this hugely personally empowering to be able to sit for Glyn, because the first thing was that he put me so at ease, and I was so relaxed on a day when I was tired that I very nearly fell asleep. I was sitting in the sun, and he was just sketching away and chatting. But I also realised that he was actually getting through to the depth of the person. And I think when you look at Glyn's work, he picks up the mirror of the soul, and that is the eyes. And in all of his drawings, you're immediately drawn to people's eyes more than anything else. And their eyes have an expression in them which the photographs don't, because they actually reflect the personality that he's picked up. But the other thing about the work is that this is about community. I came from outside Wales many, many years ago now, 36 or whatever, and Cardiff has been home. It's been the only place that I've ever felt was home, and whenever I've had to move away from Cardiff, or sometimes years at a time, I've been so homesick that I've come back. And it is because of the community. And I really believe that there is something very unique in South East Wales that you don't really find. Perhaps you would in the islands at the north of Scotland or somewhere. I don't know, I've not lived there. But there is something very unique, which is that actually we're a very equitable community. The social layers that you find in other places just aren't there. I've got friends across all walks of life, absolutely full range. And it doesn't matter where people have come from or what labels they have. It's about who they are and how sincere they are, and whether they're doing what they really want to do. The other thing is that I had always been motivated because I can't bear to see people suffer, which is why I went into medicine, which is why I then went into hospice care and built the specialty, and why I've been determined to make Wales the best place for end-of-life care in the world, and that's what I'm still trying to do. I want everyone to know that in Wales you'll get better care than you'll get anywhere else in the world, because actually that's what the people deserve. And I think there's only one standard in life that you can live by, and that is it good enough for your nearest and dearest? And if it is, then that's fine, it's good enough for others. But there's that do as you would be done by philosophy around, that you should really do for other people, whoever they are, what you would want done for yourself. So I felt it a huge privilege to be involved in this. I think it's fascinating the way that you've picked out people, the work that you've done, and I hope that you do get this into Europe as an exhibition, that you do take it off there, because it says a huge amount about Wales. I know we don't have the WDA anymore, the Welsh Development Agency, but gosh, Welsh Development should really pick this up and publicise the very subtly nuanced and deeply thoughtful parts that make up the society of this fantastic area that we live in, and the fantastic people that we're surrounded by. So it's just to say a huge thank you to you for having included me in your, I won't call it railway line project, but I feel I'm that old Coke can between the lines.
Thank you very much.
Well, I'm Dilys Colbourne, the Secretary by Citizen Secretary Group, and that's why I'm here. Not representing myself, I'm representing a small core of people who campaigned for 16 years to prevent commercial development of the Town Hall and Central Park. But I'd like to pay special tribute to some of our late friends who are no longer with us. That's the Reverend Ralph Ravenhall, who came to the park and led the beating of the bounds, said prayers in every corner, hoped that the council would listen to the prayers, and they did in the end, given their due. And also my chair, my faithful chairman, Terry Marsden, who does other community work as well. My family, who've been long-suffering, who've been dragged along to everything. My grandchildren, who I'm very proud of, that stood by us. And that's the few words I wanted to say.
Thank you for saying that. Thank you for coming. Thank you for making
Thank you, Dilys. Right, now I'd like to call upon Laura McAllister. Please, Laura. Come up the front.
I'm going to be very brief indeed, because I think the exhibition is all about the kind of people we've just heard from, really, Dilys and community leaders. And for me, it was an absolute privilege to be part of the exhibition. But I think what the whole scene shows really is just how important it is that everybody in a community takes on leadership roles. And you can see that in an area like Barry. I'm not a Barry girl, I'm a Bridgend girl, but I can sense when you come to a community like this that people care about facilities in their area, they care about the culture and the sporting mix of the area, and I know that from my work now in sport, that it means so much to the community really, and I think it's right and proper that Glyn has picked people who are from all walks of life but are equally important one to the other. And like Deidre and Jane and Ilora, I too came from a family where we were told that we could achieve anything we liked in life. Ordinary families, working class families, but we were never held back by a belief that we weren't as good as anyone else. And I think that applies to everybody in every walk of life. whether you're a school teacher or community leader, or even in your own street and how you behave with your neighbours. Because I think for me, leadership is about treating everyone the same, having respect for everybody in your community, and always being the one who volunteers to help out. My mother used to say that if you don't do it, somebody else might not say yes to doing it, so make sure you're first in the line to volunteer. And I think that should apply in everything we do, and in everything we try and do, and the lessons that we pass on to our children. Most of you will know I'm very passionate about sport. I've just raced back from being with the First Minister in Newport, where we opened our new National Football Centre for Wales. And we had the President of UEFA, Michel Platini, with us. And the first thing he said in his introduction was, how does a small nation like Wales manage to be so successful on the international sporting stage? And that gives me enormous pride. I know all of you here will have celebrated the Six Nations win, Cardiff and Swansea in the Premier League, all of the medals we won at the Olympics and Paralympics last year. And you know, it's not just about sport, it's about selling us as a country on the international stage. If we can do that in sport, we can do it in any area of life. And for me, that's our message. We're as good as anybody, and in some senses, we're better than other people, actually.
Oh, definitely.
So let's keep saying that, let's keep championing it. And I think even in the art and culture world, you know, to see such a fabulous selection of people is just wonderful, and it's been a privilege to be part of it. So thank you very much.
Is John Pascal here? I don't know John.
No, I don't think Karl.
So, Karl, would you like to say a few words?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak, because I'm really pleased to have the opportunity to say thank you for being a part of this. It's been, as all the speakers have said, a great experience, a truly great experience. And congratulations on such a wonderful and diverse gallery of inspirational individuals. I didn't know you, I think, before we first met to do the portrait, and I really didn't know what to expect. But it does be strange. What's it going to be like? Well, as soon as I walked into the gallery, I knew it was going to be great, and I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Gareth for nominating me as well, because I wouldn't have wanted to have missed out on this. It's been an experience, as I say. This isn't just about having my portraits done. It's been about something much, much, much bigger than that. And this is a living project, and that's so wonderful. What's so wonderful about being about it? This is living art. It goes beyond what art is so often, and that makes it such a wonderful thing as well. I work in the media. And my job is going out there and listening to what people have got to say about the media, and the BBC in particular. I was up in Llandudno at the WI conference on Wednesday, listening to what they had to say about the BBC. And they were full of praise, I'm glad to say, as were the people of Llanrwst, where we went on Thursday evening to listen to them. There was one thing that came through in both those meetings, and it comes through every time we ask people what they think about the media. Why is it always bad news? Why do we always concentrate on what's going wrong? And especially when we talk to young people. We never see people of our age doing good things on television. In drama, in news, it's always about what young people have done wrong. And to me, that's why Glyn's work is so wonderful. It reminds us that there's good in all of us, and people are basically good, which is one of the things I believe most strongly. And so thank you for doing that, and good luck with the rest of this project. On a sunny day like this, a lad from North Wales who's been living in Cardiff for almost 30 years now, feels like moving to Barry perhaps.
I'd just like to thank a few people. As you could imagine, putting on a project like that and putting an exhibition on like this, there's many people involved, of course, all the participants, but some people who've just given their time and expertise behind the scenes, from Liz, who's here, who's been involved with the other project since last year as well. Some of you might have received an email from her. She's been working hard behind and sometimes keep encouraging me, keep it going, etc. That's to have you there behind and pushing and enabling this to happen is thank you very much, Liz. Andy, who's taken the time to make a record of this for us today, at very short notice. I think it was just a couple of days ago, and he said, yes, I think I could do that. And maybe I could ask my son to help as well, so thank you.
You have that effect on people. He does, doesn't he? He really does, yeah.
So we then come along today with fabulous equipment to kind of make a record of this, so then we can share it on another platform and in another way. So thank you to Andy. Super. The framer, Paul, thank you for all your hard work and your patience. When it comes to making sure everything was just right, going beyond and coming down here a few times and making sure there's not a finger mark out of place or anything on the work. So thank you, Paul. Christy's here today, but she's helped a lot behind the scenes as well. Sharon, of course, who's had to listen to a lot of this project over the years, and has been tremendous support in many, many ways. Matt, Frere, Tracy for helping to put this exhibition up as well. And thank you, Chris, for today, for running today, for again the behind the scenes work, for contacting all the people you have done.
It was nothing.
and I look forward to the time where you say, yes, the Dalai Lama has said yes. On the line. So thank you all ever so much. So there will be a short film after if you're still standing or awake after all this, keep going, which will be made by a young filmmaker again from Barry Stevens, who's like to thank him as well for showing the making of Between the Lines, another film about the whole process. So thank you all very much.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you all.
Ilora, what was it like to be drawn by me?
It was actually a very empowering experience and very relaxing. I felt very safe.
Wow.
And I felt able to talk to you about myself, and I think you've captured perhaps some of the sadness in me, in my eyes, in that picture.
Oh, wow.
In fact.
Well, I found that the experience was it was mutual. There was a kindness which kind of radiated from you, which felt really lovely, which enabled me to open up to you, and I felt then you opened up to me in the process.
Oh, thank you.
So it's lovely to share that experience. And what do you think of the photograph compared maybe to the drawing?
Well, I've seen photographs of myself quite often, so I always look and think, oh, my hair wasn't right or my glasses weren't right. It's actually this bit of my face that I found so interesting. Because when I was even younger, people used to say, oh, you've got hangdog eyes, you've got sad eyes. So I've grown up sort of always with that image of myself. And on the photograph, I guess you see the hangdog bits more, but you don't see the expression behind it, which you captured in the drawing.
Wow. Do you feel that the drawing portrays the gentle and sensitive side of your personality? Maybe seen even more than the photograph?
Perhaps, but interestingly, I think that you've given me a very determined mouth.
Yes.
Which came as a bit of a surprise.
Yeah. Well, as a champion of, healthcare in Wales, and being able to communicate that aspect so well, so prominently, the mouth had to feature.
The mouth had to be prominent and determined.
And determined and strong and all those kind of fantastic qualities. So thank you ever so much for being part of this project.
It's been a huge privilege, and I just hope that you really manage to take this other places, because I think this is a fantastic tribute to Welsh society, actually, because all the people here have developed and come on, I believe, because of the society in which we've been living.
Yeah.
And I've always said, and I firmly believe, I would not have had the opportunities anywhere else in the world that I've had in South Wales.
Wow, that's something very rich in our culture to offer.
Well, it's been absolutely fantastic.
Wow. Oh, well, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Cheers, thank you. Jane, what was it like to have your picture drawn by me?
Well, it was wonderful. I mean, I know it was very difficult for you because I rushed in and I said I've got to go to a meeting shortly, and so you did this picture in about 5 minutes, and also the photograph. We were out in the nap on a very cold, windy day, but it really made me feel good inside.
Oh, that's really kind of you to say. Why did you choose to go to the nap?
Well, of course, as you know, I live right by the nap, and I think it's living right by the sea in Barry is a great boost. It kind of really calms me and inspires me and renews me when I'm having a stressful time. And I also, whenever I go out there to the nap, I meet people, and you've done a lot on the nap. So to me, it's a really important part of the environment of Barry, and I just wanted to look out to sea a bit.
Oh, wow. And I'd like to thank you for your support with this exhibition, all the way from back over a year, right the way through all kinds of things, and all kinds of hurdles that we've jumped over to make sure this happening in here, and to, little things that you do, kind things which people don't get to hear about. Like, for example, for me to go and see Rowan, I needed to raise the train fare. It was £80, and I didn't have that at the time. And, you didn't know anything about that, but you just gave me a donation which just covered it. So it's those little things make such a big difference. So I'd like to thank you for that as well. So this has been a mutual exchange.
Definitely. For me, I think I've gained and benefited so much from it, and it's very inspiring, and it kind of helps me face the coming days and weeks. And certainly all the people who are here, and the people who have spoken today, and the people who haven't spoken, now are very rooted in the Glyn Pooley experience between the lines.
Wow. Well, we would like to take this exhibition a bit further afield. Do you think it would be the kind of exhibition that would be seen maybe in Brussels or in the United Nations in Geneva?
Well, I think what I need to do now is tell the Minister for Culture about it, John Griffiths. If possible, I'd try and get him to come and have a look at it. And then also Di Smith, who of course is a Barry man, he's the chair of the Arts Council, but also possibly the European MP, Derek Vaughan, who actually lives in the Vale. So I'm going to have a few letters to write.
Oh, super. Thanks, Jane.
Okay.
Yeah. It would be lovely to see this community.
I think this, but obviously this will need proper funding.
Yes.
Because you've done this, many wouldn't have carried on against the difficulties. You've had to fund so much of it yourself.
Yeah.
So we really have got to look for a proper funding source. And after all, Welsh art is all over the world, and there are funding sources. So that's what I want to try and help you with now.
Lovely.
That's our next
Thanks,
task.
Jane.
Okay.
Super.
Thank you very much.
Oh, yes.